Well, hey there, everyone, and welcome to the Know, Grow, Go podcast. I'm Matt Jordan. I'm senior pastor here at First Methodist Church Enterprise, and I am so thankful that you are with us. Today, I have some really exciting news. On this past Sunday, our church had a great time of worship, and then we had a really important meeting between 10 and 11 to discuss something of great importance in the life of our church. If you've not been following along with us since Founders Day back in August of 2025, we initially presented to the church an opportunity to grow our kids ministry and an opportunity to grow our church and to grow our church daycare, our Mom's Day Out and Stepping Stones Preschool. And in that effort to grow, it's also an effort to support the different needs in the community and really pour into the children of our church and those in the community by building a new kids ministry building and the Children's Ministry Center. And we've talked about it a little bit here and there. We presented it with some preliminary drawings and things of that nature on Founders Day, and it's taken some time to get some of the other information together and put this all together. And on Sunday, we presented the whole picture to the congregation, and this building is something that is going to be very, very special. It's a building that will house not just our kids ministry on Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights, but the other kids in our daycare program that are entrusted to us, entrusted to our care, and it is something that is going to be a special place in the life of our community and specifically in the life of our church. And we're praying that this is an opportunity for us to be greater in our ways of outreach within the church daycare and even greater ways of outreach in the community by having a space that is really, really built with kids in mind and built and made suitable for them. And when we think about a building project in the life of the church, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different, really, than building it as you think about building a home, or as you think about building something for your business, or building something that the community is putting on. And the reason it's different is a few different avenues. One is when you think about churches and buildings. When you think about churches and buildings, there's always a couple of different thoughts and ideas on the footprint that a church should have in the community, whether that should be in a building or in ministry or both, or what that balance looks like, and what should a church do other than have a time of worship and all those sorts of discussions. And I just want to say that when you think about the property that a church sits on, especially in the United States, but in other places as well, that's a significant thing that's really, really important. Because we have to have a place that is safe, we have to have a place that's secure, we have to have a place that is welcoming, that's clean, to be able to host people in our church within the life of the church. And just to give you some thoughts on some of those things, when you're a parent, and I didn't think like this until I became one, and you step into a new space, whether you're a visitor or you are new to the area, or maybe even you're a member of your local church and you're having children, and you step into a space to say, I want to give my child to you for an hour-long service while I worship, or I want to give my child to you to be discipled. When you walk into a space, that is oftentimes the first impression that is made. And I can tell you, Mary Evelyn and I had the privilege to go worship at Wings Chapel one Sunday this past year when some of the chaplains were getting ready to move on to another post, and we went and we took the boys with us, and I told my wife, I said, now I know that their nursery and their kids area is top notch. I said, not only because I've seen it and have been in it, but because they have a separate contract with a group who does that, right? That's just what they do. And I said, so I trust them if we need to take the boys to the nursery or whatever it may be. And at Wings Chapel, they do Protestant and Catholic services. So they got the flip down kneelers at the back of the pews. Well, after Marilyn and I had a couple of purple toes, and the boys just fell in love with that. And I have to say, I like it too. It's a great footrest at times, and it's fun to just kind of teeter-totter back and forth while you're waiting. We decided, hey, let's go ahead and take them to the nursery and let them play a little bit while we worship. And we walk in, and it's a space that is there's obviously safe, obviously secure, obviously clean, and that's a great feeling as a parent, right? To know that you've walked in and you're taking your young child and you're entrusting them, and it's a space that is really safe. It's not easily accessible to others when you think about a large bar or large counter of some kind that's sitting there that they can't get through to get out of the classroom, right? And that's a safety thing, and that other people who don't have a child can't get across at least easily. And so there was comfort, right, in knowing that they were safe. And there was comfort in knowing that the people behind there had the smile on their face. They were welcoming them in, and just they were eager to play and have a great time. And as a parent, it brought great comfort to that. But you look for those things when you walk into a space like that. And when you walk into a space to say, I'm entrusting you with my child, what can I expect when I do that? Now, of course, there's a lot to that with curriculum. There's a lot to that with the personality of those receiving your children and how excited they are and their gifts and talents and how they serve and teach your children. But when you think about a space, that's something that's very, very important. And as a parent, I see that in every space that I walk in now. Right, I walk into a space, and the first thing I think of is, okay, where are the breakables? Is there something here that the boys can get into that may hurt them? You know, they're 2 and 3, right? And John Graham's in that stage where if he can get on top of something, he's going to jump off of it, and which is really fun for me because I absolutely love that. And it's when you walk into those spaces like that, that's the first thing you look through and look for is this a safe place? Is this a place that I need to keep them close to my side, or is there room for them to run around a little bit? And you think about those things. And so when you think about it as a church, that we're hosting families, our own members, guests, visitors. Other times, like for Celebrate Recovery and different events that we do, we have a nursery that somebody may only use for one time. You want to make sure it's a space that's easily accessible for them to get to, but also a space that is safe and clean and secure. The other thing when you think about church and buildings is why do you build something else or renovate in the capacities of which you do? And I'm really, really proud of our church in this capacity. But you got to think as a church, you're stewards not just of the souls that are under the care of pastoral leadership and of one another, but you have to steward the property as well. And I'll give you a great example of that. So one thing our trustees is doing right now is we are replacing a significant number of windows around the church. And some of these windows are the old original wooden windows, single pane glass, and we've waited about as long as we can to replace those. Some of them are starting to have a little bit of rot in them, and just natural things when you have a property. And as a church, those things are important to do because you need to maintain the property that you have. And I'll tell you, I was asked by someone one time about new churches not building a lot of sanctuaries. And I told him, I said, well, the reason is kind of twofold, right? One of those is your common normal worship style in the 21st century has shifted than it was for centuries before. We do a lot of things with contemporary worship, a lot of speakers, a lot of lights and different things of that nature. Even if you don't have, the smoke show and all the crazy moving lights and those things, is still a part of modern worship. And so a lot of your church plants and church starts and new churches, that's the style of worship that they have, right? That's their normal worship service. So a sanctuary, in the way we understand it, is not always conducive to that type of worship. And at times you can see there's a church down in Mobile, and they have moved into what used to be called the Steeple, and I think it actually used to be First United Methodist Church of Mobile. But it's downtown, just below the African Bridge, and beautiful, beautiful church. I've been there for a couple of events when I was in college. And they moved in, and they're able to do some of that worship. You can do it in a sanctuary, but it's expensive, really expensive to build a building like that with the lofty ceilings and building it in that nature and the stained glass and all those things. And so when you're a church like ours, and you have a property that is as old as ours, our church will be close to 120 years old this year. Our sanctuary is built in 1903 to 1906 in that time frame. And so when you think about a church our age, there's a lot that we have to do to maintain that space, right? To keep it looking nice, to keep it to where it's not falling down and running down. And as a church, you have as much a responsibility to steward those around you and under your care as you do the property itself. And so when you think about churches and buildings, there's a significant part of what the church does to be good stewards of what they have, right? And to be good stewards of those things. And when we think about our current kids ministry space, it is in good shape. It's healthy. It's relatively clean. But as the old saying goes, some sins you can't cover up with paint. And when you get an older building and an aging building, there's just things that you can't do, right? Renovation becomes difficult. It becomes a lot more costly than building something. There's a lot of that capacity of which, we could put this here or do this here, but, you can't run cable through the wall. So you got exposed cable. That's never really the nicest look because it's old block walls and different things of that nature that come into play. And so looking at our kids ministry as it's growing, where does it grow to, right? How does it expand? And most of our spaces are multi-purpose spaces. So, like Celebrate Recovery and Sunday school classes all rotate and use the same small group rooms time and time and time again through the week. And so when you're thinking about putting helpful material in those spaces and utilizing that for your ministry, it can be difficult, right? That's one of the things that when you walk through our church and you walk through the kids area, you see things that are directed towards kids, right? Verses that are applicable to them, the way the paint is in the classrooms and the size of the tables and those sorts of things. Then you walk into the student area and it feels like you're walking into just teenager heaven, right? There's ping pong tables and pool tables. There's a Xbox. There's a large space for worship as they're able to sit and listen for a little bit longer and not have as many crafts and activities and things. And so you see a difference just in how those spaces are used for worship. And so when you include multi-purpose usage, you run into having to move a lot of things around, and all those things are doable. We've done them for years. Even when our Moms Day Out and Stepping Stones preschool started, they would share Sunday school space with our daycare. So that the daycare would be in there through the week, and on the Sundays it was Sunday school classes. And until our Sunday school classes, most of them had moved upstairs at that time, and the bottom floor really had become a daycare. But again, when you think about renovating in those spaces, for little kids, especially those that are potty training and those things, you need a bathroom in every class. You need things that are power plugs that are not easily accessible to infants. You need a lot of different things that are helpful for children, but not necessarily the most helpful thing for adults at times, right? And I don't know how many of you, maybe your grandparents or parents, you've put those little plastic covers on your doorknobs, and you've put little plastic covers on all your light sockets and all those sorts of things. And you go to plug something in, and you're like, I'm going to get shocked trying to pull this thing out of the wall to plug a lamp in. Or then you're trying to figure out, this keeps a child out of the door, and it also keeps me out of the door because I can't get my fingers in the hole to turn the doorknob. And so when we think about shared spaces, some of that we have to do, and some of that's really, really good. But when we have the opportunity and the blessing to build a space that is dedicated to children, that is a great thing. That's a great thing. That means it can be built specifically for them. It can be used specifically for them, and it can be something that's built to them. So again, the church has to be a good steward of the property that it has. The church has to be mindful of the intentionality of their space, right? A lot of that, again, is multi-purpose, but sometimes you need your own unique spaces for ministry to be done to the most effective and efficient ways that it can be. And the other reason is to be intentional when you think about churches and buildings, to be intentional in how you use your space. Be intentional in how you use it. And I'll give you a great example of this. Our Family Life Center. Think about Family Life Center in 2000 to 2002 is when it was built, and that is at the peak of Upward. It's at the beginning of Upward Sports. A lot of churches at that time were building Family Life Centers to do a lot of different activities and events. And whether it be Upward or adult basketball leagues or co-ed volleyball or whatever it may be, and we're still able to host some of those things But times have changed a lot in churches, especially in communities as small as ours. And it's difficult to look at that space and use it in a lot of those same capacities. So how do we use that space now? Well, we use it for senior adult workout classes. We use it for our teenagers and for our daycare and our kids ministry to do fun events and activities in there to where if it's raining or if it's cold or it's too hot, they have a space where they can do that. We're able to support groups in our community, like until the new Enterprise Parks and Rec Center was built. We partnered with the city, and we were able to host a lot of their practices for volleyball and basketball in their games because they didn't have enough gym space, especially after they began the demolition and construction of the new Parks and Rec area. And so we're able to really increase the way we're able to use that space intentionally to have people on our campus and have the opportunity to share the gospel and invite them to church. The other thing that we've done with that space is our lobby. And our lobby, when you look at it, it's built obviously for moments between rec games and things like that, for some snacks. And I've used it at times to do some brief meetings when I was youth director, and had used it for a lot of different things in the life of our church. But this past year, we turned that lobby into a rest stop for first responders. And it has been an absolute blessing for me to watch our first responders use that space. We put a coffee pot in there. We've got a new microwave. We've filled it full of snacks and a lot of decorations and things that of encouragement to first responders. And we filled it with some different books and Bibles and things directed at first responders. And even have a little box for prayer requests for them to fill out and put in there. And they do so every week. I check it once a week, and there's always a few in there. And our ladies' prayer group, confidential prayer group, they pray for those first responders every week and their requests that they make. And it's powerful to see how a space that, unless an activity is going on in the gym, is not used for much except maybe to sit down and get a breath after your workout, or to gather a group up if the daycare is going from one building to the other and those sorts of things, or just being used on Sundays and Wednesdays, to now 24/7, 365. There are people that use that lobby to come in and to have a moment to diffuse and a moment just to relax while they're on duty, a moment to kind of take the tack vest off and hang it on the chair in a safe space and be refueled and re-energized both physically and spiritually, as we know that they've taken some of these resources to use. We actually just had to put a new order in of books, and Lifeway had donated close to 100 books for us. And so to be able to see that space being intentionally used for something in ministry, it's really encouraging. And so that's the other reason when you think about churches and building is, how are you using that space intentionally? And so I want to give you a couple of things, if you missed the meeting on Sunday, of what is really, really important. One of those things is the new building, of course, is going to be used for our kids ministry and for our Moms Day Out area. That building is going to be utilized every single day of the week, Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings, Sunday nights. That's where our nursery will be. Most of our young families go to our contemporary service, so it's going to be right there beside the fellowship hall. And it has one main point of entrance, so folks can walk in a safe area, drop their children off, come back to that same area and pick them up. It's going to be built so that there's plenty of opportunities for the Moms Day Out staff and our kids men's staff and volunteers to have resources available for them. There's going to be a chapel in the back that can seat a whole bunch of people. And they can have worship in chairs that actually fit their little legs. I help chapel sometimes when they with the daycare, and they always go to the sanctuary, and it's funny to sit there and watch their little legs barely hanging off the pews. So to be able to have a chair they can put their feet to the ground on, and have a space that has technology in there where we can do worship videos with them and interact with them a lot better and make that chapel time really, really meaningful is really, really important, right? And so I think it's obvious to know all the ways that we can use that space. VBS is going to be awesome in that space. It's going to be great, right? It's going to take about 20 months to build. Is in theory how long it's going to take from ground break to completion, and so we're really excited for all that space is going to have in it, and all that it's going to be able to do. But what about the old space? How are we going to use it intentionally? Well, I'm glad you asked. So when we think about the current space downstairs, we already have two classes that meet there for Sunday school. We've got one right behind the sanctuary and one just down from the church library. And we have another class that meets in there in the church library. It's actually the young adult room now, where they meet, and there's resources there for them. And we've switched out some of those resources so that there are things that anybody in the church can use for discipleship and theology and understanding Scripture and those sorts of things, and a space that's really conducive for them to be able to have a great space to be, right? And so the other Sunday school classes will also move downstairs. So the Follow Him class, the Explorers class, we've got a new class that we're working on getting off the ground for active duty military. All of those things are going to be downstairs, so it's easy to access no matter your age or your ability to go up and downstairs and those sorts of things. And that space is really neat. And those Mom Stay Out classrooms have brand new vinyl plank that's less than 7 or 8 years old. We did it, I think, back in 2019, and so that's a really, really nice, clean space. We've tried to keep that space up as much as we can for our Mom Stay Out. And the current Mom Stay Out office is going to become a Sunday school resource area. So we'll have some coffee and snacks and refreshments in there. We've got an old conference table in the office that we're going to bring over there if Sunday school classes need a space to plan and meet, or some of our smaller committees need a space that's a little more conducive to meet in private. There's a restroom in there that's easily accessible. We'll be able to have a copier in there where folks don't have to go back and forth from the office or make copies at home. If they need them there, they can use them, and we can even store some of our older Sunday school curriculum and some good resources in there. Upstairs, the plan is to take our current podcast studio, this beautiful space, and move it into the kids' worship space that we currently have. And that gives us a lot more room to really be a little more comfortable in how we set up the podcast. It's really becoming a great part of our ministry, as Amy has one that's directed for the students that she's doing. We try to do different announcements and things like that. And so it gives us a great space to do that, store things a lot more neatly, kind of clean that space up a little bit, the podcast area. And then we're going to take the other upstairs classrooms, and we're going to turn those into Celebrate Recovery small step study rooms, small group rooms for them. So they've got a permanent space that until we grow to where we need more small group space, that they can have, where they can set it up with Celebrate Recovery materials without having to take things down and whatnot. They can really make it a space that they own to do their ministry well, and that we can utilize. And there may be times where we may have a conference here at the church, or we may have VBS where a lot of those classrooms are used because we got to spread people out. But it gives them an opportunity to have a space dedicated to their ministry and what they do. And that's a really important thing. Again, when you think about how you use your space well, multi-purpose is helpful in a lot of ways. You can get a lot done in small spaces. But being able to give ownership to a ministry, to say, make this room yours, right? Paint it orange and black in the Celebrate Recovery colors. Put all the information that you want in that space. Set this coffee area up or this refreshment area up however you need to best fit your ministry. That's a really helpful thing to do, and it's helpful in those ministries. And I can tell you, because I've been in ministry where you have shared spaces. When you think about the Youth Building Main Hall, for example, that we share that with Mom Stay Out, and at times that's where a lot of our funeral luncheons and those things took place. And you walk in, and it's a beautiful sight to see all the pictures of all the kids that they've drawn and they've got posted up on the walls, and see a rack full of nap mats and all those sorts of things. But when you go in there and you're trying to decorate for VBS or something like that, you try to be real careful, right? We don't want to cover this up. We don't want to mess this up. And so there's some slight complexity to how you use a space in a multi-purpose arena. So being able to have a space for a ministry to call its own gives that ministry a lot of ownership and their people a lot of buy-in in how they can use that space really, really well. So I hope that what we've discussed here has been really, really helpful for you. I do want to share some information for you of what you can do to support in this capacity too. So, like I said, we presented this on Sunday, and we're getting ready to move forward. But there are some things that still have to happen in this process, and this is where churches may differ in comparison to a lot of other things. Most churches when you think about assets and money and those things, a healthy church has a good standing of reserves, has a great surplus within their accounts and things like that to maintain the ministry and things of that nature. But 90%, and maybe as low as 80%, but I would say at least 90% of what the church does. Well, actually, I would say 100% of what the church does comes from the faithful stewardship and giving of the congregation in that capacity, right? Of how they give to the Lord through the local church to serve the community, to go on mission, to do things that honor God. And the thing that's important in that is when you think about a building project the size of ours, a $4.5 million building, there are some people in our church that have been very, very generous already to donate money towards this project to get it off the ground. We have another ministry in the church that is committing to that as well, and but the rest of that we have to raise ourselves. We have to fundraise to support, and we do that through what we call pledges. And if you've been part of our church for some time, you know every year that we pass the budget, we turn around and say, well, we're going to ask you to make a pledge. So that we know, like, here's our budget, and we're asking you to pledge what you can give towards that budget over the year, so that we can be good stewards of those things and good stewards of those funds. And the same is true in this building. It's called a capital campaign, and what we're asking you to do as a congregation member, and if you're a community member listening and would like to support this effort as well, to make a pledge and let Gina, our finance secretary in the office, know everything stays confidential. Of what you plan to do with that pledge, how much you're willing to give and sacrifice in that capacity, because we need all the support that we can, and we're trying to pledge $1.5 million, and the church is going to take a loan, and then we've got approximately $2 million to go towards this project already, and we want to pledge 1.5. And this is where it really differs between churches and businesses and other things when they take on a building project. And that's why I talk about the intentionality of a space and the use of your building and how you do ministry with it and why you need it and those things. Because you have all of that, but without the people, both to fill it and to support it, it doesn't happen. And so we need your support and your prayers and your consideration of how you wish to support this project going forward to bring it to completion. So my ask of you is to prayerfully consider how you can give towards this project. We're asking for the pledges to be over a 5-year span. So I know when you think about a project that size of the church's pledge of $1.5 million, I don't know if I can give that much. Well, when we do it over 5 years, if 200 people, which we have over that on a Sunday morning between our two services, if 200 people give $100 a month for 5 years, we've met that pledge. $100 a month for 5 years, 200 people, we've met that pledge. When you think about the capacity of sacrificial giving, especially in the light of a building project, it's above your normal tithes and offering. And I know some of you, many of you, give sacrificially every month, every year to support the general budget of the church. This is a call to go above and beyond for the sake of the kids in our community, the kids in our church, the kids that we're entrusted with in our daycare and preschool, and the way that we can grow our outreach to them and to young families in the life of our church with this new building that is built specifically for children, built in a way that we can serve them well, disciple them, teach them, grow them in Christ, and prayerfully grow their families as well in the same faith of Christ that we're seeking to give them. Prayerfully consider, when the pledge card comes your way, whether through mail or you pick one up at worship or in the church office or what it may be, before you write something down, prayerfully consider, what can I do, what can I give to this effort that will make a great difference as we build this for eternity, as what we're calling building blocks for the future, as we seek to go forward in this capacity to transform the world with the good news of Jesus Christ in the way that we're serving the kids in our church and our community. We can have the best intentions. We can have the greatest plan. We can have all these things. But if we don't have God, and I believe that we do, I believe that he has called us to this. I believe that he supports us in this. And then if we also don't have people, our people, willing to support in the capacity of which we serve, volunteer in that space, teach in that space, love the children in that space, and give of the gifts that we have to support this space, then it won't happen. It takes all of us. It takes all of us in this commitment to go forward and build blocks for eternity that will make a great difference today, tomorrow, and forever. So I pray that as you've heard this presentation on Sunday, you've heard this brief discussion today, and you look at what our church is going to be doing in the future for kids in our community and families in this area, my prayer is that this space becomes a space of the most holiest nature, of how we love and serve those that are most precious in God's sight, and that we all prayerfully consider what it is that we can do to support this project. I pray you have a great week, friends, and I'm excited for the future here at First Methodist Church of Enterprise of what the Lord is doing in us and through us and with us. May you have a great week. Amen.